Hello, and welcome to this 11th episode of the Secret Cave podcast. This week I speak to Dan Renton Skinner, probably best known for his comedy character of Angelos Epithemiou. It's a role he's been playing for years, even before he met Bob Mortimer and saw himself as a key part of Shooting Stars. Today, he still plays the character, most notably with Barry from Watford, on stage and in their podcast, while branching out into more serious roles, like his part in Notes on Blindness and an appearance in Ben Wheatley's High Rise. British comedy fans may also know him as Bosch from House of Fools, or through his widespread work across the industry. We talk about his career and British comedy in general in a conversation that saw itself unfortunately cut short thanks to some technical problems. Now, this isn't going to usually happen, and usually I would be more on the ball with this kind of thing, but it appeared that the recording software that I use crashed with 10 minutes left on the interview, and I hadn't noticed it happen. So I feel extremely stupid about that. But it was only around 10 minutes of the conversation. We were wrapping up anyway. So things will just fade out randomly at the end, and please do forgive me for that. It's not a mistake I'll be making in future. Learning experience, blah, blah, blah. And while I'm making apologies, I might as well just mention quickly how I know how I have never been telling my guests that they're actually in the recording of a podcast, and it always ends up about 10 or 15 minutes in. They say, am I in the podcast? Am I in a podcast now? So again, I'm going to start clearing that up in future and making people aware of when I've hit record. And the last apology I want to make is for sound quality, because I know it's not perfect and I know it can get crackly and distort sometimes, but I'm working with extremely cheap materials here. I haven't really quite got the money to kick up my studio just yet, but we have some plans for that, and I will be discussing that on the Twitter. So make sure to go and follow us over there, and you should get some news on our future. Anyway, let's just go ahead and listen to Dan Renton Skinner.
Lee, is that your name?
It is my name, yes. Hello.
Hello, mate. Dan here.
Nice to meet you, Dan.
I can't see you. That doesn't matter, does it?
No, that's because I'm working on a very poor internet, and if I did, everything would just crash down.
Okay. Can you see me?
Hang on. Let's see if I can. No, I can't anyway. Oh, yes, I can actually. I can.
I've got a tash and a comb over. It's for a thing.
Right, so, well, yeah, what have you been up to recently?
I've been touring with Alex. Barry from Watford. We've been all over the place, and we have been. We did a couple of weeks at the Soho Theatre, and now we're trying to write a sitcom.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it's a long old process, and we're just doing festival dates at the moment. So we're going around the country. So we did Sheffield on Friday, we're doing Hastings this Friday, and then we did the Udderbelly in London, and Wells Comedy Festival,
right,
and Bristol, and all these places that have comedy festivals that I had no idea had comedy festivals.
Right.
It was a bit of a, oh right. Everyone's got a comedy festival now.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we even have one in bloody Grimsby, where I'm from, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you couldn't get more backwards than that.
Well, I think you can.
Yeah, you might have a point there.
Grimsby's quite a nice place, isn't it? Up by Hull.
It is, actually, to be fair. I mean, I'm not going to be one of these people who's going to leap on it. It's definitely nice. I was just playing to public conception, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because isn't that where Guy Martin's from?
It is, actually, yeah, and he still lives here, I think.
He's got an accent like no other bloke from Grimsby, has he?
Yeah, you're right.
He's got a proper, like, like, 1930s Yorkshireman.
Yeah, you're right.
Fred Dibnah.
We have got a very down-to-earth accent here, but for some reason I kind of shed it when I was about 7 years old.
Yeah, but he's really, like, kept hold of his, isn't he?
Blimey, yeah, definitely.
Thickened it right up as like, he sounds like one of the Monty Python, when they do, that sketch where they're all trying to outdo each other, how poor they were.
Oh, right, yeah, I know exactly the one you mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he sounds like.
I think he lives, like, literally round the corner from me as well.
Yeah, probably. He's got a big old Spitfire engine in his front room, and he nailed to the floor now.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've definitely heard
Yeah.
that.
So that was frightening the burglars.
Yeah, I need to try and get in touch with him.
You should do an interview with him.
If he's up for it, if he's not too busy riding bicycles at the speed of
Yeah,
sound.
riding around the world. Yeah, exactly. I like Guy Martin. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, I do as well. He's a real genuine and clever bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. It's great watching someone that is so into something, and so just passionate about. I mean, I'm not into engines or motorbikes at all, but to watch somebody else be that passionate about it, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound too cynical or anything, but passion seems in pretty short supply these days.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It depends what your. What do you say? Why do you say that?
Well, okay. I feel like when I was growing up, it was as easy as turning on the television and there was something really interesting going on somewhere. Not on every channel at all times. But I feel like now you have to really dig to find things. I don't know if that's just because I'm cynical or not.
I don't know. I mean, like you click on YouTube and you can find incredible things within about 5 seconds.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree with that, but that's kind of like still a public thing, isn't it? In a way.
You think people aren't making stuff that's.
I feel like, well, stuff that's going on YouTube and things like that is almost like so good and so interesting that actual syndicated stuff is really starting to suffer or not catching up.
I watched something the other night that it was brilliant. It was on BBC4, which I really like, and it was called Handmade in Japan, and it was all about how they make samurai swords,
Right.
and because it's just old craftsmanship, they've been doing it for thousands of years, and it's just this family in this shed, and they make these incredible samurai swords, and each one takes months to make, and I think those skills are becoming less and less. When there aren't that many things that are made like that anymore. And it's fascinating to watch people dedicate their lives to making this stuff. So nowadays it's all like documentaries about how far we can run and 24 hours on the night bus. It's just watching people behave weirdly in either really mundane situations or extremely stressful situations, like cop show, like 24 hours on A&E.
Yeah. And it's all really quickly edited.
And it's all sort of wrapped up in the same way, and it's sort of generic documentaries, and they're quite interesting to turn on. But very soon you feel like you're eating a pizza, or
Yeah,
a
of
McDonald's, where you just think, oh right, the same thing happens every week, and it's the same sort of comedy music when this happens, and the same dramatic music when that happens. But just to watch something and watch people, do something they've been doing for thousands of years in a way that is completely alien to you or to me, that is what is fascinating. And I think Guy Martin is, right in that area, where he sort of, I could watch him take an engine apart and put it back together again. And I wouldn't know what the fuck he was doing, but I'd be interested to watch him do it because I don't know what he's doing, if you know what I mean.
Well, absolutely. I can relate to that because there's like a couple of master woodwork guys who I've been obsessed with on YouTube recently, and I couldn't do a bit of woodwork for a second in my life, but it's just, as you say, the passion and seeing the skill that goes behind it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
I think that's all I was hitting at, really.
Everything's a little bit spoon-fed, on TV now. There's no sort of. I think that's true. I don't think that sort of. I don't think that's a sort of generalization. I think that's true.
Because I've read in interviews you yourself talking about how Vic and Bob came up in the early 90s and how punk rock it was, and I very much got that feeling myself as a viewer, and And as a big fan, I'm so glad that they've kept going and obviously brought you into the fold. But I don't get that punk rock feeling off anything anywhere. That subversiveness.
No, I don't think they allow people to do that on telly anymore. I really don't think they do. I mean, if it happens, it sort of slips through the net.
Yeah.
And there are just other platforms. I think, I don't know, I can't think of anything that, you know, anything that's been on where you just go, bloody hell, that is, I don't know why I like this, because that's how I felt when I first watched Vic and Bob. Like, so I don't know why I like this, but you are, you know, when watching Vic, you just sort of think, you seem to know exactly what you're doing, even though I don't know what you're doing.
Right, that's actually exactly it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, and to watch someone be that into what they're doing, without knowing, you know, without thinking, is there a point to this, or what is there? Right. And then you just sucked into it, and you go, oh yeah, right, it's just a thing. And now I really like this thing, you know. And it completely divided people when it first, you know, when it first came out, because you know, the majority of people that I spoke to were just like, oh, it's bollocks, that is just rubbish, you know. And of course, yeah, it didn't mean anything, but it's just something that you either connect with or you don't. It's not something you go, oh yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's something you go, oh, that speaks to me completely and utterly, you know, in a visceral sense, and it just speaks to my soul, you know.
It's very hard to analyse from a journalist's perspective, because I've tried a few times, but it's like what you said about it meaning nothing almost.
It's just watching two people completely convicted, you know, the conviction they have to doing nothing.
Right.
And I think that's from, you know, the absurdists did all that, you know, like Beckett used to do that.
Yeah.
You know, writing these plays really that people analysing them for years, going, what's he talking about? What is this? You know, but totally committed to it. And that in itself, you know, is enough, I think. You know, just exploring the mystery and the why and the, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I remember I first went to go see Waiting for Godot with Patrick Stewart in it and all that when I was like 17 years old and just getting into all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I was really enjoying exploring it and every single different sentence and all that. And I was reading a lot of things that Beckett was saying about it not meaning anything, and about if it was about God, I'd have said so, and all this. And I almost felt kind of put off by that, because I was like, let me have some fun with it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the thing is, though, people, you know, people want to know, you know, the reason for everything now. They want to know why, you know, something happens, and you know, they want to know why you're doing something. Why, you know? And it can happen when you're writing scripts or doing stuff on stage, you know. People go, why, you know, what, okay, so you write that line, so why have you written that line? Why have you written that line? Yeah. And sometimes you go, well, because it's funny, you know, I think it's funny, and I think I can make that funny.
Right.
But they want to know why. Why? You can't explain it, you know? You can't explain it. And so if someone said to me, why is Big Night Out funny? I couldn't tell you.
No,
it just is to me.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And obviously it's been a huge influence on you. And I was actually really interested in those early days, because, again, I read another interview where you said where you kind of knocked up with Bob Mortimer was kind of luck, but that you'd been doing Angelos for 7 years before then.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm really intrigued in those 7 years, like the inception of it. And that's not me trying to like find out what it all means, but just like what kind of form it took in those early days.
Well, it was an impression of someone that I met, and I found him so funny that I just immediately started doing this impression of this person. And then I just happened to be doing a sort of stage sketch show at the time, so the people I was doing it with just said, I'll bung that into this sketch show. And I was really reticent at first. I thought, I can't, man. People are just gonna, they're gonna accuse me of all sorts of things, and then he said, no, honestly, you're okay with it. And so I did it, and it got the biggest laugh. I thought, oh, this is fun. And then what I would do is, there used to be loads of different sort of character and sketch comedy nights around London, and I don't know that they have so many of them now. They might have, but I don't really know. But I just turn up to those and say, look, can you give me 5-10 minutes on stage? And they go, yeah. And I would go on stage and not really have any material and just talk to the audience as Angelos. Just sort of feeling my way through it. And then I started doing stuff with David Earl, who's a guy called Brian Gittins, who's very funny. And we used to do a show down in Brighton, like a 3-hour show, where we sort of introduce it and host it and have guests come on, and we had a regular audience, and that was good fun. And then I was doing the Armstrong and Miller show, and Lucy Montgomery. I've always kept doing Angelos to her, and I'd write notes as Angelos and put them under her dressing room door and just annoy her, And she said, Bob Mortimer would love this character. And I went, all right. So I just sat on the end of my bed and I made a little video of me just saying, for God's sake, Mortimer, it's time that you give me, well, this is getting ridiculous, isn't it? as if I knew him. And I sent it off to him, and she had told Bob to expect this video because, they get a lot of weird stuff. And he watched it and then said, and then he asked me he rang me and said, do you want to come and have a chat? And I did, and then they stuck me on Shooting Stars. So it was all a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But good fun, really good fun.
Did you take a similar approach to the actual show as well? Because I've always been really interested in that, in whether it was quite improvisational itself, whether it was just, right, you've got 10 minutes, here, go.
Yeah, they say you've got, right, we need you to do a little bit here and a little bit there. And it looks improvised, but I really worked hard on a lot of the jokes and a lot of the material, I wrote. And once I had those locked in, and what you do is you do a rehearsal in the afternoon, and then if you made the crew laugh, then it sort of stays in. And if you didn't, then you have to change something. Mm-hmm. Once I knew I had those little bits, all in there, then I felt secure and I felt safe, and then I could just sort of muck around and improvise around those bits, Mm-hmm. And they sort of just said, chip in whenever you want, do whatever you like. So I was like, yeah, great, cool, and yeah, I was really, really nervous at first, but yeah, in fact, I was nervous for the whole time I did it. But I don't know. I suppose that's not it's not unusual. It's like a show a pair of comedians who I adored, and a show that I loved, and I was now asked to make it, really funny, and it's quite daunting, but it was great. It was very, it was rewarding to sort of, for people to go, yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah. Well, I watched that show religiously from its first series right up until its very last one. And from what I can remember, there was only one time I could see that nervousness come across from you. And it was in your very first episode. I think you had you started corpsing a bit. And it was
probably.
It was actually really endearing, though. I remember as a first-time viewer to you, as seeing Angelos for the first time, it was really endearing to me to see you actually having a laugh with Bob.
Yeah. Well, he made me laugh. He does make me laugh. He's really,
I can imagine.
Really funny bloke. So yeah, and he loves to be made to laugh as well. So it's as a comedian, it's quite rare actually that you find someone that wants to be made to laugh. He's a lovely guy. So is Jim. They're both brilliant men.
I can imagine. But is that something that has interested you like within your own stuff, or was it just a part of working with Vic and Bob, that anarchic edge, that um,
Yeah,
letting things just happen?
I like the sort of madness, and the the sort of anything can happen feel. I really like that. I like things exploding, and I like things being destroyed. I was watching a load of Laurel and Hardy just recently, and they were the kings of destroying stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they used to rip things to bits, and it was so funny watching that. And yeah, so I do like, and Spike Milligan, I just love the sort of craziness and the madness, and yeah, I have always enjoyed, I have always enjoyed that.
Because I was listening to the several episodes of the Barry from Watford podcast with Angelos as well, and I mean, that is that largely an improvisational thing? I mean, it just sounds like a lot of fun.
That's completely 100% improvised.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good fun. We literally turn up, turn the machine on, and get going, and then half an hour later press stop and then go home. And it's just talking about whatever comes. We have a little flick through the papers sometimes, but it's mostly just talking about what's on. Just making stuff up, basically,
right.
Lying to each other. And that's what we're trying to capture with the sitcom we're writing. We're trying to get it that way, but have some structure as well.
Yeah. I can imagine that's quite a challenge, actually.
It is a bit of a challenge, but it's getting the format right, and then you go, oh right, this is how it works, and then you can sort of roll it on from there. But I mean, I say that, but I suspect the second, third, fourth episode would be just as hard as the first. But
oh yeah,
start some.
Because you don't want it to end up too contrived, like, and I hate to bring it up, but like Mrs. Brown's Boys or something.
Well, yeah, I mean that is true. But you watch Mrs. Brown's Boys, and like it or loathe it, Brendan O'Carroll is brilliant at doing that. He is brilliant at doing that character, and it's so consistent right throughout the show. The gags are there the whole time, and it's got a tight little story. It's really clever. It's really, really clever. I mean, I know people accuse it of all sorts of things and it being too broad and and not funny, but it's fucking hard to do that stuff.
Oh
really,
yeah, totally.
And
I don't think there's any problem with broad, like just Shooting Stars, for example. I mean, I think that's pretty broad. As in, I've met a lot of people who enjoy it. I feel like it transcends barriers and all of that crap.
It isn't. Honestly, Shooting Stars, it gets about 1 point. At its peak, I think, it was certainly when it came back, it was like 1.2 million people watching it. Right. I think Mrs. Brown's Boys gets like 9 million.
There is that, yeah.
Broad.
I never even consider figures.
Yeah, I mean it's huge for the BBC. That show, absolutely huge. I mean, I might be wrong, but it's certainly several.
Do you think a lot of people are watching it in secret then? Because I've honestly not met a single person who likes it, but a lot of people I've met love Shooting Stars. So what does that say?
You're probably living in an echo.
But I did think that as I was saying it, I think that's just a filter bubble, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is. It's like I don't know anyone that voted for Brexit.
Right, that's a fair point.
But there are people out there that watch it and love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. And
actually, I'm not trying to tear anything apart.
Some people don't have really, really strong opinions about this stuff. They just go, "That's quite funny. I'm going to leave that on." They don't define themselves by their comedy taste. They just work and then come home on a Friday and bung it on, and it's not a big deal to them. They don't care if people know that they like it or they don't like it. It's not part of their.
Which is totally fair enough. I mean, essentially, I'm a nerd, really. So.
Yeah, well, but yeah, I mean, it's like most people don't think that way, do they? They don't care what other people think about their comedy tastes. They just watch it and that's it.
which
They're
is
not
totally
bothered.
fair enough.
Yeah.
But you've been doing some really interesting things like outside of TV as well. Like I was intrigued by this Inside Number Nine thing that you did.
No, I didn't do inside that. Oh, yeah, you mean the internet thing?
I do,
Yeah,
yeah. This is what I meant.
yeah, that was quite interesting, wasn't it? That.
Yeah,
Um,
because I was interested in because I mean the media company who made it was making all these lofty claims about it being a new approach to entertainment and all of this stuff. So I guess that's what I was trying to bring up.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lofty new approach to media every week. I think
Yeah,
now. It's a pretty fast moving industry. Um, I mean, whether or not anyone gives a shit,
yeah, yeah.
that's I suppose that's all that really matters. It's like anything. It's like you say, yeah, no, this is the way forward. Well, it's not. It doesn't. Just because you say it is doesn't mean to say it is. People have to care about it.
Yeah,
For it to be the way forward. And if they decide that it isn't the way forward, then it isn't, I suppose.
a 3D film's a good example of that. Where's that? Nobody cares.
Yeah, no one cares. It doesn't like add anything to the story.
No.
There's only a few ways of telling stories, I suppose,
Yeah,
and and people want the simplest way. They don't really care about all the bits that are added on. The latest one is virtual VR.
yeah. I was about to say, could you see yourself acting in that kind of environment?
I've done one. I did one the other day, a VR film, and you think, yeah, okay, but yeah, I don't think that's going to last long either.
No, probably not. I mean, it is just a gimmick. And
Mm. It's people like people that build the technology are incredibly amazed that they can do it, and everyone's like, wow, this is really cool. And it may have some sort of application, but I don't think it will be a way people will consume stories.
no, definitely not. I mean, there's still a reason why, books are still massively popular after all these centuries.
Yeah, books, theatre, film. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be other ways of, someone will come along with something else. But at the moment, that looks, I suppose streaming on the internet is a new way of, receiving your stuff. So you
Yeah.
don't have to wait a week to watch the next episode. You can watch it all at once. But there's something really great about what I normally sort of record a series and then watch it all at once, on
Yeah.
TV. But recently I watched Apple Tree Yard and Line of Duty, like
Right.
as it came on the TV weekly, and it's brilliant doing it that way because every Sunday you go, oh, it's Line of Duty night,
Yeah.
and if you've got the discipline to do it, it's great to have something to look forward to like that,
I
I
mean,
really, really like it.
funnily enough, and I'm really not just saying this, the last time that I actually did that was with House of Fools. Um,
I really,
because I am a religious Vic and Bob fan. I had to tune in every week, and it wasn't like
yeah,
all uploaded to Netflix straight away. Um, and I did kind of want to ask one quick question about that because it was something that always interested me. In that,
yeah.
what happened with the character change with Bosch between the two seasons? Not that it was a problem. Both were fantastic, but it seemed like a drastically different character for the
Yeah, it
second season.
was. It was. It was. I got a bit bored of doing Bosch that way the first time round, and I thought, well, I'm just going to do it a different way. And they
Hmm.
said, yeah, they didn't mind. So there was no great story or mystery, but they just, I just said, I'll just do it like this,
Right.
and they, yeah, okay, go and do it like that.
Well, it
And it's-
totally works for me anyway. I mean, just out of the blue, you're now this quite effeminate kind of guy.
They didn't, I didn't think it mattered, it just like he could become whatever he wanted,
That's actually kind of interesting, actually. I mean, like, you say it was just like this off the cuff idea, and I'm sure it was, but you could get really deep about it if you want and be like, it's a commentary on the development of characters or like a subversive flip side to
Well,
that.
I mean, the thing is about a sitcom is that nobody's supposed to change, nobody's supposed to learn anything, and
That's what I
everyone's
mean, yeah.
supposed to go through, you know. And as long as you're consistent throughout the series with your choice, then that's okay. But you know, it's just it's more interesting to me to do it a different way. And Vic and Bob will always, as long as they like it, they'll always let you sort of, try something.
Yeah, I definitely get that impression.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that's what happened with Lucky Sexy Winners as well. Was it John
Yeah,
Merengue? Yeah.
John Moran. Yeah. Well, he started out as a welder from the northeast. John Moran.
Right.
He was going to be all like that, like yeah.
Right, yeah.
And and I said, let's do him like an estate agent from Surbiton, dressed as a Viking.
Right.
And actually, it was Jim who wanted him dressed as a Viking. And I said, yeah, okay, great. So I just play him like a Surbiton estate agent. They went, yeah, great. So that's how that worked.
Well, it makes a strange kind of sense when you put it like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Do you? Because the Dutch Elm Conservatoire stuff is all over now, isn't it? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you kind of missed out on the whole sketch show thing? Because I know you've written for a couple as well, but the whole like really diverse roles for you, like across the sketch show kind of thing.
They're kind of diverse roles, but they're not really. They're just cartoon characters,
That's what I'm saying.
They're just like impressions of people,
Right.
I mean, they're good fun, the sketch show, but they're sort of hit and miss. We did have a pilot. We did a pilot read through for ITV2. I'd say back in about 2006 or 7.
Thank you for listening, and again, I'm sorry for how it ended like that, and it didn't really like have an official goodbye or anything like that. If I remember rightly, I don't think we said all that much anyway. It might have been more like 5 minutes and 10 minutes that was cut off, but now I'm just making excuses. Thank you for listening anyway, and next week we have on Doug Lussenhop, who's probably best known for his work with Tim and Eric, but he should be better known for his work with Poundhouse and Two Wet Crew and his music, but we'll get into that next week. I'm a huge fucking Douglas and Hop fan, so I hope you join me for that one. Make sure to get over onto the Twitter and you'll be nice and updated with all of our podcasts, our companion articles, and any other goings on that might be happening. Don't get on our Facebook, we don't do anything with that. Go on our Twitter instead. But yes, until next time, bye for now.